Hi, it's Grandpa Bill again. For months now, the Lord has been focusing on one theme when He gives me the nudge to do another video. That theme is time and how little there is of it remaining before He returns. He just reminded me to look at time itself. You see, when I was younger, I lived in the moment and never gave a second thought to the fact that time is a part of life that no man can control. All of my choices were depending on what was happening right then, at that moment, as if I had forever. Then one day something happened on that narrow, windy road between Red Oak, Oklahoma and Foreman, Arkansas, that caused me to look time squarely in the face. It was a rude awakening. After that day, I just couldn't go on living as though I had all of the tomorrows I could ever want. So why was I even on that lonely stretch of road, you ask? Well, living in the moment without asking God about my decisions got me there. Another way of putting it is I was never considering time or the one who had given that time to me. For instance, one of my in-the-moment decisions caused me to end up buying 40 acres of rocky, wooded area near a little community called Zafra in Oklahoma. It's miles from anywhere. Well, I never considered the fact that I didn't have a clue about farming. Finally, I sold the 40 acres and bought a 10-acre place in Potter Junction, Arkansas. That in-the-moment decision wasn't much better, but it was closer to jobs. Not enough income was always the issue, and my in-the-moment decisions had put me and my family there. Farming wasn't the answer for me, so I had to admit I needed a job. I understood mechanical things and I was good with my hands, so that's the type of job I was looking for. Well, it proved to be a limited choice because in the 80s there were very few jobs in the area and none that paid a decent wage. That's why I tried the career of truck driving. It did pay a little more. Like all of my other decisions, truck driving also was another one of those in-the-moment decisions made without asking God. So to answer your question, my in-the-moment decisions led me to be on that road between Red Oak, Oklahoma and Foreman, Arkansas on that particular day.
He was warmer than a summer breeze. He was softer than his silver hair. He was brighter than the twinkle in his eye as he rested in his easy chair. And I remember how he used to smile and tell me all about the folks back then. And if I had my way, you know I'd be there today, and I'd do it all over again.
Well, driving over the road really is a single man's life, but I had a family. The only way to really have a family and still drive over the road is to get a job driving with short hauls so you can be home in the evenings. That is, if you want to keep your marriage strong. I was fortunate with my very first over-the-road job because it was indeed a short haul. I was hauling coal from Red Oak, Oklahoma to Foreman, Arkansas. I could be home every evening. So here's what happened on that day. The day that I had to stand face to face with time. It was my first load of the day. I'd already loaded up at Red Oak and was on my way to Foreman, Arkansas, when I spotted two teenage boys riding tandem on a motorcycle. They were coming up from behind. They were having the time of their lives, swerving back and forth across the painted line on the right side of the road. Even though they were still a long ways behind me, I could see they were having a ball because they were so animated on that bike. Each time I got a glimpse of them, they were closer. I was running a little under the speed limit because of the curvy section of road that I was on. But still, they were coming up pretty fast. In what seemed like no time at all, they were right behind me. It wasn't long until we came to a fairly straight section of road. But honestly, it wasn't long enough to legally pass. Suddenly, they shot around me and immediately went back to their game of swerving back and forth across that solid line on the right side of the road. They were accelerating as they went around the next curve. It turned to the right, and they were completely out of sight until I also rounded the turn. That's when I saw what had happened. They had run off the right side of the road, and the motorcycle had lodged solidly in some rocks, throwing the two boys off in unison. About 10 feet beyond where the bike was lodged was a huge boulder. It must have rolled down from the side of the hill. My guess is the rain had dislodged it. The rain that we had had a few days prior. The two boys landed squarely on the face of that big rock. Well, to clarify it, the driver of the motorcycle hit the rock and the passenger landed on the driver. I don't think they even had time to think before it was all over. The passenger was sitting next to his friend crying with his head bowed down. He was covering his face with his hands, reminding me of my children when they got hurt. By the time I got stopped, a car coming from the other direction had gotten to them ahead of me. Just as I walked up, the driver from the car was starting CPR on the operator of the motorcycle. And when he started, there was this crunching sound coming from the broken bones inside the boy's lifeless body. That sound caused a sickening feeling to come flooding over me. As I looked at the face of the man who had started the CPR, I could see the color drain from his face as well. The driver of the car and I looked at each other, and he was the first to speak. He said, "There's just too much damage. The boy is gone." And sure enough, CPR didn't work. There was just too much internal damage. His death has to have been instantaneous. The boy was having the time of his life with his best friend 1 second, and the next second, he was standing before God. His body had received twice the injury that it normally would have in an accident like that. You see, first he landed on that huge boulder, and second, he was hit from behind by his friend's body. In his death, he had saved the life of his best friend. I have no doubt that the driver of the motorcycle loved his friend, but he didn't know his life was going to be given to save him. Did you know there is someone who knowingly gave his life to save you? That man is Jesus, who knowingly died for us. Jesus once said that if you know him, you know God. He said that because he is God in the flesh. Jesus, the one and only Son of God, or if you prefer, God the Son voluntarily gave his life on the cross to pay the debt for our sin. Jesus could have called legions of angels to save him, but he knew something. He knew that we had a debt that we just couldn't pay, so he paid it for us. With his life, he purchased us back from death. Why? He did it because he loves us that much. I've heard it said that it wasn't the nails that held Jesus to the cross. It was his love for you and for me. Once I knew that the operator of the motorcycle couldn't be saved, I turned my attention to the passenger. The boy appeared to only have a few scrapes with no severe damage. But it did no good to try and talk to him because he was so overcome with guilt and with grief. I couldn't even get his attention. That boy, just like me, was forced to look time square in the face on a lonely stretch of winding road between Red Oak, Oklahoma and Foreman, Arkansas. It's a shocking wake-up call when you're forced to look at your own mortality. I mean, right square in the eyes in such a violent way. Ever since that day, I've strived to consider carefully any decision I make, only after I've prayed and asked God about it. And I've gotten better at doing it over time. After all, we've each been given just so much time to complete what God put us here to do. Job 14:5. A person's days are determined. You have decreed the number of his months and have set limits that he cannot exceed. It's rare that God will even reveal when your final day will come. Proverbs 27:1. Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring. We aren't even promised our next breath. Our last day could be up on us suddenly and unexpectedly, just like it was for the rider of that motorcycle. That's why it's so important to ask those big questions. The truly important questions while there's still time. So many people say that they will wait until the midnight hour of their lives before they ever turn their hearts and their souls over to Jesus. Think about what you're saying. Think about what you're thinking. When the midnight hour of that motorcycle driver's life came upon him, I don't think he even had time to cry out to Jesus. That's why it's so important to seek the truth while you're still on the top side of the grass. This life is so temporary. James 4:14 has this to say, why, you do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You're a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. You can only be sure of one thing. That one thing is that you know that you have right now. And that's really all you know. You don't know anything beyond that point. Truly, you don't. The most important decision you can make is to choose where you're going to spend your eternity. 1 Timothy 2:5. For there is one God and one mediator between God and mankind, the man, Jesus Christ. Like it or not, what Jesus did for mankind on that cross is the only way to heaven. Acts 4:12. Salvation is found in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given to mankind by which we must be saved. As sure as we're born, we are promised to also one day die. The question to be answered by all of us is this: am I prepared to meet him one day? Hebrews 9:27 and 28. Just as people are destined to die once and after that to face judgment, so Christ was crucified once to take away the sins of many, and he will appear a second time, not to bear sin, but to bring salvation to those who are waiting for him. Are you ready? Are you waiting for him? Have you accepted Jesus as your Savior? Jesus has been giving me glimpses of what's about to happen to this earth, and also to those who have not accepted him as their Savior. It's not pretty. I pray that you'll have time to accept Jesus' offer of salvation, maybe even after that bad destruction starts. Laugh if you want to, but remember, you were warned. He has shown me things that are unbelievable, like earthquakes, massive earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes erupting, lava flowing, more and more deadly diseases being unleashed upon the earth than anyone has ever seen. Nuclear war, and the list goes on and on. Last night he showed me that it's time for the really bad stuff to start, and that I am to tell you so. He also told me to tell Christians to get ready. And don't be surprised at what's happening. Be calm, because he is coming to pluck us out of here, just as evil takes full control of this earth. The ABCs of salvation can be found in the description box below this video, as well as a sample prayer if you have trouble forming the words to ask Jesus to save you. I pray that you do accept Jesus before it's too late. Too late is too late. Time is almost up.